All right, friends, today's story. This is from the collection of stories related by the Budel Chittik, Allah Shalom. So there was a chassid that he was in the timber business, lumber. So he bought a section of forest, a large section, near the city of Polotsk. So as a result of that, during the winter, he moved there to Polotsk in order to be able to supervise the woodcutting and the shipping and so on. So most of the days in the woods, supervising all of the work, but in the evening he would go to the Beis Medrash to learn and daven. After Ma'ariv, there are others that also remained in the shul, learning in chavrus, in pairs. But there's one fellow there, an elderly person, who learned alone. And the reason was because he had a prodigious intellect and just considered everybody else to be, not an intellectual match for him in his study. So he learned alone. So when this chassid, the elder fellow was a nice guy, but he just, and this is it seems in the story this is true, he just was a very intelligent fellow and preferred to learn on his own. But when this chassid arrived, so he thought to himself, this is probably a simple fella who was embarrassed to join the other chavrusas. So he was a nice fellow. So he thought he'll learn with him and then help him acclimatize and learn with everybody else. So he invites this chassid to come and sit with him at his table. And a few minutes into the conversation, he realized that the chassid's a big Talmid Chacham. And on the contrary, he's found his match. And he invites the chassid to learn with him chavrusa. So they're learning Gemara, and so on, Poskim. So one evening, the chassid is sensing that his elderly study partner, his chavrusa, is preoccupied, but it's not revealing what's going on. Is there something you want to say? Says the chassid to him. Actually, I do. And he proceeds to tell him that he's learning Jewish philosophical texts, whatever, he doesn't say what they were, Meri Nevuchim, other works, the Kuzari, whatever it was, and have many shaylas, many questions, and haven't found someone that's able to answer them satisfactorily. And that's what I'm, these things bother me, these philosophical questions. So the chassid says, well, maybe share them with me, maybe I can help you. And that's what happened. From then on, after they learned Gemara, he would ask his questions, and the chassid was able to answer many questions to the person's satisfaction because of the chassid's knowledge of Chassidus. Meanwhile, time goes on, the winter comes to an end, and the chassid finished his business and is going to go back home. So as he's going home, his elderly friend accompanies him, and he couldn't hide his distress. He says, what's going to be now? I miss our discussion so much. Who can I ask my questions now to? So the chassid turns to me and says, listen to me, my friend. Take my advice. Go to Lubavitch, and there the Rebbe, that was the Tzemach Tzedek, was the Rebbe at the time. His guidance, and there you'll find the answer to your questions. Okay? They parted company, only to meet many months later on the Yom Tov of Shavuos. And the chassid's overjoyed to see his friend, and he tells him as follows: I took your advice, and after Pesach I came here, and I had the schus to go into Yechidus. Now, before I tell you what the Tzemach Tzedek said, it needs to be appreciated that when the Rebbe answers a question, it's the answer to that person. It may not be the answer to everyone, but it's the answer to him, and I think it applies to all of us. So I told the Rebbe, says this fellow, to the chassid of the questions I have on Jewish philosophy and so on, to which the Tzemach Tzedek responded, Abaye and Rava didn't question these matters, so why should you? Abaye and Rava, the great sages of the Gemara. So he concluded, he said that since then, I don't have these shaylas. Now, Now I learned Chassidus. And that's the end of the story. What's the story telling us? That we're learning, amongst other things, we're learning Chassidus, and it's very philosophical, and we're probing here the nature of reality and the way what is true, what's not true, the way Likus, Hashem, and the way he manifests and expresses himself, and where the nefesh works. By the way, it's not just philosophy, it's psychology. It's a very elaborate understanding of the self. But the reason we're learning this is not because, why we're learning this? To satisfy philosophical curiosity. No, Chassidus is a deep philosophy, but the objective is to get to know God. It's a whole different learning. It's not to answer questions and be satisfied that Torah is true. There's a God. Now get on with my business to do Torah mitzvahs. I've proven satisfactorily to my mind the validity of it all. That's philosophy. And then, whatever the result is. Chassidus is, Hashem says, I want you to get to know me. We're connected already. And we love each other. But a relationship has to be a meeting of mind and a true meeting of hearts. And that is when we understand and get to know each other. And that's the value of all of this understanding and tremendous answers that along the way we get to very thorny questions and difficult philosophical questions in life. So that's an incidental, as it were, benefit. We have answer to a question. But the beauty of it all is with every insight that we're learning, with every mind that we're learning, so we are taken deeper and deeper into an intimate embrace and understanding of Elikus. We're learning about the Eibishter. And this mind is understanding this to whatever degree we're able to. And that's a Kirvas Elikim. And Kirvas Elikim Litoiv, that's what Hashem wants. That it should be good for you. That I feel the goodness and I feel the closeness. And I feel how privileged I am to know this and to be in a relationship with Hashem and serve Him. Have a wonderful day, everybody, as we now proceed to davening.
Thank you very much. Yashikaya.